When a microscopic killer is unleashed, a terrified nation is once again jolted by fear. No one claims responsibility. No one's ever charged. Shocking unsolved crime number 7 is the anthrax murders of 2001. The terrorist attacks of September 11th were a turning point in American history. The methods were brazen. The targets were clear.
There was fear, paranoia, suspicion. Everybody was on edge.
Just 8 days later, America was attacked again. This time, the weapon was nearly invisible.
This was a different type of attack, a biological attack, and people were dying.
On September 19th, tabloid photo editor Bob Stevens opened an envelope in his office in Boca Raton, Florida. A fine white powder spilled out. Stevens soon came down with flu-like symptoms.
The Centers for Disease Control has just confirmed the diagnosis of anthrax in a patient in the Florida hospital.
By October 5th, he was dead.
Anthrax is a very virulent bacillus, bacteria. It produces hemorrhages in internal organs and tissues. It damages the structures and the functions of those tissues.
Authorities from the FBI and the Center for Disease Control quarantined Smith's office and tested his staff. The results confirmed their worst fears. But the biological attack was just beginning.
What was so scary about the anthrax case is that who was being targeted? They were targeting senators. They were targeting major media players. They were putting this deathly poison where it could do the most damage.
Tom Brokaw's assistant developed skin anthrax. So did Dan Rather's. Both infections were linked to letters the employees handled.
The anthrax that was used in those letters were a cutaneous form of anthrax, which means that it affects primarily the skin and causes lesions.
2 New Jersey post office workers died of pulmonary anthrax in late October. 2 more women died of pulmonary anthrax in November, bringing the death toll to 5. Panicked people swamped police switchboards with calls.
Is my mail safe? Do I need to wear plastic gloves when I get my mail?
By the first week of November, nearly 20,000 people were taking antibiotics at the government's urging.
Ciprofloxacin is the treatment that you get for anthrax exposure. Of all the different types of antibiotics that you could give someone for this, Cipro seems to be the most effective.
The demand for the drug was so high that local pharmacies ran out. Then, just as quickly as the letters arrived, they stopped.
22 people in total were exposed to anthrax, and of those, 5 actually died.
I believe it was a coordinated attack. I believe that it's the type of attack that we must prepare for to happen again.
The FBI launched one of the largest investigations in history. Thousands of leads were generated.
The problem is those leads led to nowhere.
Since the attacks, the FBI has interviewed more than 5,000 people and served some 4,000 subpoenas in the case without making a single arrest. Then in August 2008, media reports revealed the FBI's main suspect was found dead on July 29th, an apparent suicide. Bruce E. Ivins was a top researcher in anthrax vaccines at a government-run bioweapons laboratory. According to news reports, prosecutors informed Ivins before his death that they planned to file charges against him in connection with the anthrax mailings. Ivins' attorney insisted the scientist was innocent.
Even though we all think we live in a CSI era where the FBI can always figure out who done it, it's not always that easy.
It's the stuff of legend. A lone man with just a weapon, his wits, and an audacious escape plan takes off with $200,000, never to be seen again. Unsolved Crime number 6 is the story of D.B. Cooper. It happened November 24th, 1971.
A middle-aged man dressed in a business suit paid $20 for a ticket on Northwest Orient Airlines, Flight 305.
They didn't ask for ID. They didn't check your carry-ons or anything. Hijacking was not heard of back in those days.
The man boarded the flight in Portland, Oregon. On his ticket was the name Dan Cooper.
Shortly after the flight had taken off, he approached the stewardess who was passing by and handed her a note.
And the note said, although no one knows for sure because he took the note back, "I have a bomb in my briefcase and I am prepared to use it."
Cooper's demands? $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. FBI and police scrambled to collect 10,000 $20 bills from several area banks. Every serial number was recorded on microfilm. When the plane landed in Seattle, authorities delivered the 21 pounds of cash in a white cotton sack.
He does let the passengers go. He keeps all the crew members and he keeps a flight attendant back there with him.
Cooper then ordered the pilots to take off and fly to Mexico.
He tells them to fly no higher than 10,000 feet, and he tells them to put the flaps of the plane at 15 degrees. He knew that was as slow as the plane could go and as low as it could fly without danger that he would be able to sort of jump.
At 8:12 p.m., Cooper opened the back door of the Boeing 727 and jumped into the cold and rainy northwestern night.
Had he landed in the trees, he would have survived. Whereas they say, if you landed in water, then you're dead.
Some people think that he ended up in the bottom of a river, and that he was there and that someday his skeleton will be found.
Police weren't taking any chances. They launched a massive manhunt. After the weather cleared, they centered their search in a remote mountainous area 45 miles north of Portland, Oregon.
I believe 600 National Guardsmen were deployed through this pretty mountainous terrain. Nothing is ever found.
After the hijacking occurred, the FBI was interviewing a person whose name was D.B. Cooper, thinking that might be a suspect, and it turned out it wasn't. But the way they transmitted it on the news was that a skyjacker's name was D.B. Cooper.
D.B. Cooper had vanished. But in 1980, almost 9 years after the hijacking, a fresh clue.
February 10th, 1980, a kid named Brian Ingram was playing in the banks of the Columbia River, digging in the sand when he uncovered what looked like some old, moldering $20 bills.
Authorities confirmed that the nearly $6,000 was part of D.B. Cooper's haul. But what did the discovery mean? How did the money end up on the riverbank? Where was Cooper and the rest of the money? Once again, the trail went cold.
Nothing was ever found, no clothing, no parachute, no shoe, no belt buckle, no bones in that area. And hunters and fishermen, people that used that woods, not one scrap has ever been found.
Since 1971, the FBI has investigated more than 1,100 serious suspects. In the meantime, Cooper the felon became Cooper the folk hero.
He's a guy who decided he was going to do this one big thing, and he's either going to make a lot of money or die doing it. And I think a lot of people like me like to believe that he survived.
To this day, the incident remains the only unsolved hijacking in U.S. history. Coming up,
she was really essentially entirely skeletonized at that point.
When we return to 20 most shocking unsolved crimes.